Hello everyone, welcome to Jump Up Supercast, the only podcast on the internet where, by gosh, one day we're going to have the whole cast back. I'm Will, and joining me again, Brandon.
I'm here. I mean, what else do we need?
Ills.
As one falls, another rises.
And Seth.
I just want us to be a big happy family again. I'm missing everyone.
It's true. It's a tragic thing to be
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
Wow. This is what he does to me on the day of my daughter's wedding. How are you doing this week, boys?
Doing
You
fine.
ever see The Godfather?
No.
I feel so
I'm doing good.
What is that?
Good. Good. Let me tell you, I listened to last week's podcast,
Uh-oh.
and Moose isn't here, so we can go. We can talk trash about him the whole time. That guy,
I
he
can
is a
do that
loosey-goosey guy. I have a lot of respect for Moose and Mill, but he was going wild with it. That was a wild one. Go back and listen to it. But this week, we're back. There's still not a lot of video game news because why not? But we're gonna hit the cut. We're gonna try a couple of new things. We're gonna try a new segment. But before that, let's cover sort of the one piece of news on the docket, which was that we got a hardware announcement. What? Oh? Don't get too excited. We got ourselves another VR headset announced by none other than Valve.
Oh my
Now you might
God.
say,
Damn.
wait a minute, didn't Valve already do a thing? Didn't they have like the Vive?
Did they not?
Well, that was them partnering with HTC.
Oh.
And that was that whole deal. This time, it's all by themselves, baby. Valve's coming out saying this is all ours, and you better pay up, brother. Because if you want to get I think the headset itself is $450. If you want to get the controllers, that's another roughly $280, and then with the little stations you have to track motion, adds up to $1,000 US.
God.
$280?
The controllers, it's like the weird next step in, I guess we can get to this. The reason that's so expensive is because it tracks each individual finger in your hand. So what it means is that like you can pick up a thing with two fingers and have the other ones do whatever. And there are like some cool VR games that use that, but it's like two.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing is, $1,000 to utilize that tech. But and that is of course not factoring in the PC cost. So this is a premium product is the way I would describe it.
Right.
Unless you are a wealthy guy or girl, whomever, you will have trouble, I think, affording this easily. But I think it's interesting because this is coming out. They announced it literally this week. It's coming out in June, so it's only like a month, really.
Damn. It's a lot of money to play VR chat.
It is, but it might be worth it. Now each individual finger you can use to grab the weird anime girls in VR chat.
Oh, good point.
Oh,
Good point.
God.
Not like that, just like their hands.
You just
when you're
gave
fine.
Brandon the perfect opportunity to spend $1,000.
Oh God.
Oh, baby.
There you go. But I think it's also interesting. We can talk about the state of Valve in general, but it's also funny because Facebook had their big thing. You might know that Facebook owns Oculus, the other competitor, and they're going the exact opposite way, which is they announced their Oculus Quest thing is coming in a month too, and is a $400 completely standalone thing. You don't need a PS4. You don't need a computer. It's all in that headset. So they're very clearly going on different paths, but I think that none of us will probably buy this product, to be honest. But I think it is worth mentioning that Valve did say, we are going to release a game in 2019. Just you wait, brother. The company that's given up on the idea of making video games because they just print money with Steam is now making a video game exclusive to I guess it also includes other Steam VR headsets, they said later on, but will play best on the Index. So
You're making me want to punch you right now.
I know.
You're saying all the wrong things to me.
I know. Well, that's what they were telling me, all the wrong things. Don't kill the messenger. But I think it's weird because they're clearly trying to position this as like a big exclusive. So my mind has to go, they have to use an IP that they have, right? But like, I imagine Portal in VR.
Okay.
I'm vomiting already.
I genuinely thought you were going to bring this to Half-Life 3.
I would play the fuck out of that game.
I mean,
I
it would
like
be
that.
It would be sick, but imagine the part where you're flying through the portals and you're like going incredibly fast. You would get the most whiplash you've ever seen in your entire life.
I mean,
Be fun.
It'd
be fun.
My life.
I mean, maybe you're you're a hardier man than I am, but and then like I mean, of course, there's the classic joke: what if Half-Life 3 finally happens because of
Fuck.
this thing?
Why are you even putting that out into the world? Take it back.
We went.
I'm telling you, it's going to be exclusive to this headset.
It might be
murder you in a video game.
I think. Thank you for the qualifier. I think it's weird though because we've had insiders talking about Valve recently, and the thing is, like, they have not put out a game besides Artifact, which we will get to in a second, in years, but they are still making them. Like the guy was talking about, like, they went through 3 versions of Left 4 Dead 3 before they finally just sort of scrapped it because they got bored, right? Like, it seems like Valve right now is just like a cat, like it's just like wandering around, just like knocking things over, just because it gets bored and it moves on. And I think that's a weird thing that they finally sat down and said, we're gonna have to put out a video game. We're just gonna do it because. I mean, the last one was Artifact, which, if you look at the current player base, daily is like under 300 active players a day for an online trading card game, which is not very good. In fact, very bad. But, I mean, I think it's weird that just a lot of the people we now associate with Valve left years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a very much a rare situation. But also, they've been rehiring them back, which is the weirdest thing. Like, a bunch of the Half-Life people got rehired quietly last year, and that was strange to me.
Breaking out in hives.
I don't think it's for Half-Life 3, but it's just, they're hiring them back in. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see them put out a game, because, I mean, I think it's worth saying that, like, they were a premier developer for almost 2 decades, right?
Yeah.
And it's
That's
weird.
how they rose to prominence. I mean, that was who they are.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Who they were.
who they were, because now they're the Steam company, right? And like this infinite storefront, but you know,
it's depressing.
But it's funny to look back and remember that, you know, part of the reason they launched Steam was, hey, if you want to play our games, if you want to play Team Fortress, if you want to play all these other things, you got to download Steam, and that got the foot in the door, and then it kept going from there, and they provided a good service. But now, you know, this other thing's happening where, you know, we won't get into another Epic Game Store discussion, but this week, you know, Epic acquired the people that made Rocket League. And there's been rumblings that it's going to be taken off Steam later in the year, right? They deny that. They're like, right now, it will stay on Steam, was their official response, which they make sure not to say what would happen later on.
That's not really a response.
Yeah. But I think that, like, you know, they're in a very weird situation right now as a company. Like, the Vive did not take off in a huge way. The pre-order numbers, you know, they fulfilled their initial line. Apparently, they said, I don't know how many that was, but this is like a niche product. We can admit. When you get into $1,000 for any consumer goods, that's niche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be weird to see. I mean, not the fall of Valve, because they're still going to make money hand over fist, but they're in a very different situation. And, like, you know, if you had heard, hey, Valve is going to put out a big trading card game based off Dota, which is this game that still has, you know, hundreds of thousands of players, and it would be dead within 2 months, you know, you would have said, what happened? Something went very wrong. And it did. And I think that, you know, it'll be interesting to see if they still have it even a half of what they once were, you know? And you hate to compare it, but they're asking you to compare it by doing all this stuff. So
I mean, as much as I want to see Half-Life 3, I don't know, man. I can't see myself spending $1,000 on a VR headset, or, you know, $2,000 to upgrade my computer, and then like $1,000.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is like Half-Life 3 feels like it is literally the last great white whale in a lot of ways, right? Like, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake supposedly exists. They announced it. We have Shenmue 3. We have all these games. You know, Duke Nukem Forever made it out, for God's sakes. Half-Life 3 is the one that got away.
Yeah.
So it would still have a draw, but not $1,000. It's amazing how they could somehow squander the thing of Half-Life 3 if it was only on this. But we'll see.
I seriously doubt. I mean,
all
jokes aside, I
Yeah.
seriously doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't mind it just being a new thing, honestly, because so few of the original people working on Team Fortress or any of these things are still there. Let the new people make their new thing. You know,
aren't
with
most
their
of the
own
Left
boss.
4 Dead people? They're part of like Turtle Rock now.
They are. They did.
Yeah.
We didn't mention it, but they announced it was Back for Blood.
Back for Blood, yeah, with the 4 too.
With
so
a
you
4,
know that
so
it's
you-
supposed to be like
Oh
Left 4 Dead.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to
game.
happen this year, apparently,
Yeah.
or they said early 2020. But
Hey, I'm looking forward to it since it's most of the same people.
yeah,
I
mean,
wasn't a big fan of Evolve, but you know they
No.
definitely tried something different. So.
uh-huh. Evolve is that was a wild one. That was one of those
Yeah.
weird, like early. I mean, like, I'm happy that they gave a new shot for a new IP. Is sort of my take on Evolve because like it didn't do super well, but I'm happy that it exists. But yeah,
Gave it a shot. I wasn't really into it though.
Yeah.
I think
But
back to Valve.
sorry, go ahead.
The most interesting part about it, or the most fascinating part, is like this is the first time in a long time that Valve actually has competition in that sort of field that they're working in. It's like,
The storefronts.
yeah, storefront. So it's very interesting,
Yeah.
like seeing how their attempts or their solution in regards to like getting out in front or like trying to curb that level of competition is just putting out this VR headset. I want to see what the results are going to be. Like, this seems like a kind of weird gambit to take to try and fight against it.
Yeah, I mean the thing was this was probably put into production before the Epic Game Store was publicly a thing, right? Like this stuff takes years to put together.
Yeah.
But once again it feels this thing where it's like, to their credit, they put a lot of effort into the VR space.
Yeah.
I mean but it doesn't mean that like it's always paid off in a huge way, right? Like
Yeah.
if you look at the sales for the Vive, like I said, or you know, it's not a thing that's like a door, you know, a huge. Everyone's on the streets buying Vives. That's not the case, and I don't expect it with Index, but it just feels like they're going down a weird, different path. And meanwhile, Epic's just trying to come up on their left and run past them on this thing that like they're relying on the idea that Steam is still going to be huge to let them fund these projects,
Yeah.
right? Where they don't have to make a ton of money back. And so if that goes away, then suddenly, I mean, they have to scramble and they have to actually think about how to get people back on their service again.
Yeah.
You know, and Steam is still huge, but things happen slowly, right? The ground shifts underneath your feet before you even know it. So that was a weird one, but that announcement just incited a whole lot of other little thoughts in my brain. So there we go. But that's sort of the big news. I'll briefly mention that there is some good articles about the work culture at both Epic because of Fortnite and the whole how the people wonder how do they update this thing so often, and it's like because people aren't sleeping. And sort of a good article about that type of work culture and the issues there, and then one at NetherRealm where the very similar things, fighting game updates take constant play testing, and guess what, a lot of people aren't getting sleep and time off there either. So we've talked about a lot of this stuff before, but if that is of interest to you, then you can find them with a simple Google. But moving on from that and the news, we're going to try a new little segment today that we have entitled Babies First. Now, of course, we talk about, especially with the list, a lot of genres, right? And we say, this is a JRPG, this is a strategy game, this is whatever. And sometimes people will say, well, I know what those are, but I never play any of them because I don't know where to start. A lot of these genres have a barrier of entry. And so we've decided to take a look at not what is the best game in a genre, but what is the best for a beginner. And each of us took a genre and sort of thought about it, and are going to come with our own individual answers. And we're going to start off, I guess, in reverse order. So, Sath.
Yes.
You picked... Well, just tell us what you picked. Why
I
don't you tell me?
picked turn-based JRPGs as a genre. Like, obviously there's like a wide variety of what would be considered an RPG. But what
Sure.
the originators was this particular genre. That was kind of the start when it comes to like console games. And if people are wanting to get into it, what JRPGs are is like they're RPGs, fantasy games, but specifically made in Japan. And the turn-based version of it is just the battle system is just you go first, then they attack, then you go, and so on and so forth. It's basically turn-based. The game that I chose, like, for people who want to really get into JRPGs or try and understand JRPGs, the game that I chose was Final Fantasy VI. Like, it is not my favorite Final Fantasy game, as people may know, it is not my favorite RPG game or JRPG game, but it feels like the best first step into like looking into what this genre has to offer. So what that means is that so this game has an amazing story and has an amazing wide, huge variety of characters to use, and the systems or the mechanics involved in it allows a lot of freedom and customization as to how you would build your characters. So you aren't really stuck with one set of characters that's easy to use. You can just customize it with this mechanics. The magic system, you can pick and choose which character learns which spells, and you can build your characters from there. It does a lot of things that it has a lot of twists in it. It has a lot of story progression, and a lot of characters have amazing arcs within it, which I feel as though like is a good idea, a good understanding of like what type of game, what type of story, what type of potential this game would normally have. So that's why I kind of like started off with JRPGs. With Final Fantasy VI.
So really fast, what was the number again? Let's make this clear.
Final Fantasy VI.
Final Fantasy 6. Okay, so the SNES. This is the genre that's on the SNES, right?
Yep, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the SNES to start off there, and
yeah,
you can see it on the PlayStation Portable if you still have that, and Game Boy Advance.
Well, it's on iOS, right?
It is on iOS, yeah.
But it's an ugly version of it, but it's there.
It is, yeah. The sprites are not great. And then it's on the SNES Classic actually too. Final Fantasy 6-3 in the US, right? Because the whole they skipped games. Get him in here. So for me, Saf, like the hallmarks of the genre, right? Is like you said, party, story, and the battle systems are the three big ones. And you touched on a couple of those things there, but like, what is the nature of the party that you think makes it 6 more approachable than not only just all other JRPGs, but like other Final Fantasy games?
Well, oh man, that is the way they interact with each other, to be honest with you, and the way each character grows and their relationships towards each other. Like, you have the two brothers that's there, Edgar and his, I can't remember what the other one is.
Sabin.
Yes, him, who left the royal family to learn about martial arts. You have Locke and Terra, their relationships. You have Celis, Ren, and her grandfather. Like, there's a lot of characters there that you kind of like look into and like get a better understanding of. It is it's quite intricate in regards to like how each character interacts with each other and how the characters develop, because they're from different sides of the story and it's kind of developed. So I believe that would be like what makes it interesting and what would be quite a
Because I think that you know, with JRPGs, it's from Japan, right? There's a different type of storytelling and different types of characterization than what occurs in Western stories, right? And I think that JRPGs for a lot of people are sort of almost viewed, I mean, they think like, it's anime, it's all over dramatic, it's yada yada, but I do think you're right in that like most of the motive, even though this is a game with an evil clown as a bad guy, Batman has that, so we can get past it. But the party members, like the things that they carry as baggage can be relatable, right? Like Locke loses. I mean, spoilers. I guess we can say. You know, Locke
Fucking spoiling.
We're not going to spoil the thing, but you know, the characters themselves. The problems they face are like, in general, human ones, right? There's a couple of them that get more fantastical, but you look at it and you say, like, I get why Edgar and Sabin feel the way they feel and why they each chose their own paths in life. And like, I think that humanizes the party in a way that like Lightning from 13 doesn't, right? Where she's like, my sister's a crystal and I don't know what to do. God wants me to reincarnate the universe. And you're like, I don't know how to feel about any of this. You know?
I mean, you got that going on, but you're also in a time where there's like, how many fucking Marvel movies out there about superheroes and stuff?
23 or however.
Yeah, I feel as though like fantasy isn't that much of a strange genre for people to jump into. Like, I feel so people are more comfortable with that idea.
Yeah, but I think like in the same way that like a Marvel movie goes, and like how it's like even though they're doing fantastical things, the things the characters feel
True.
relatable. It's the same way in Final Fantasy VI, right? Like I think it has that. The battle system. So it has. This is worth mentioning. People are going to load this up. They're going to see a bunch of little bars scrolling along at the bottom. What is going on there?
That's the turn-based action. So what it is like I believe it's like active time battle. I think that's what it's. Yeah.
Battle. Yeah. The ATB system.
ATB system. Yeah. So what it was is just basically like every character has a set time from in regards to like how long they have to wait before they have to move. Some characters are faster, so they have a shorter time to wait, and even the villains has that. And you can and that's how like the turn-based system works. It's like you go for attack, you wait a certain amount of time, and whoever's next up to be moving, they go, and then the time gets reset for them, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. This is a actually really good part as well, because like you can, if you want to get into it, if you want to be deep into it, you could just like adjust how quickly or how slowly that wait time is. So like you can cast haste or slow or whatever, which is how you would be able to deal with that. Sorry. But it's
yeah.
That's how that battle system works. It's just like you have time to. I think there's an option to actually just switch that off if you need to as well. Like there is that option in. I think it's like I played the last one I remember was like the Game Boy Advance one. Where it's like if you don't want to go through like the active time battle, you could just switch that off and you can just play it like just normal turn based, and it will allow you to think about like what sort of moves would be best to be taken.
I would recommend that, because the one thing I think that people are going to know is that they're going to throw a lot of terms at you. I don't know what a Thundaga is, Saf. What does that mean?
Well, Thundaga is...
Wait, they don't call it that in the original, though.
No, it was Bolt 3. I guess that actually makes more sense. 1, 2, 3. But if you're going to be playing a modern version, they're going to have the...
I mean, the best thing about it, or the simplest thing about it, is just like it's not, you don't get Thundaga right away. You have to get Thunder, then you have to get Thundara, and then you have to get Thundaga. So it's kind of a situation where it's like, you kind of, like, the moment you achieve something, you kind of understand this might be a more powerful version of the X move. So, even though, like, it seems like a lot wordy, a lot complex, it's not that hard. Like, this is a game that you can, if you want to just brute force it and just do it in the dumb, like, just go through A to B, you can do that. You may want to grind a bit, but you would be able to like it wouldn't perplex you too much in regards to like allowing you to just go fuck it, go for a fight, just try and do the most powerful attacks I can do and hope for the best. You know, if you want to be more intricate with it, it has those mechanics in place to allow it to be more intricate. And as I mentioned before, like it has something called the Magicite system, or like the Espers, where like
yes,
you can choose which character learns which spells, and if you want to just like say, okay, this character is going to be my healer, I want him to heal all the time, you can just allow them to do that sort of thing. So it allows you freedom. Like it doesn't like restrict you.
Sure. But do you think that would be confusing for a new player that there is? Because like I think that in other games, they just say, this guy's the healer. They just tell you that. This guy will never learn anything but healing spells. You know that this guy is this. You know that this person is just a black mage.
This is why I would consider putting FF4 in this spot instead of FF6 if we're going to choose a Final Fantasy game.
Because they have more defined roles?
Because, they have more defined roles. There's a lot less customization. There's a lot less micromanaging.
Yeah, I thought that too.
And there's a lot less characters too.
I thought that too. But...
and it's a lot more linear. Sorry.
Yeah, but I feel so like it, like in terms of like what happens, in terms of like, getting, like I feel so like this game has a lot more to it, to like a lot more chance to explore and understand it. Like it gives you like the best thing you can possibly get out of the genre. Like it is.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're trying to choose like your first exposure, like the easiest way to get into it. You know what I mean?
I think it's a tough thing. I mean, you have to strike a balance between like, do you think this game is engaging enough to get a new player, right? But is it also simple enough to create a baseline, right? And I think that's a hard thing because like 4, I'd say it's probably a less engaging game, but gives you more of the basics of the genre than 6 does, right?
I I would agree, but that's because
Yeah.
6 is way better, but 4 is
Sure.
still really good.
Yeah, it's still good, right? I was going to
really,
ask.
really good.
I was going to ask because I think that this is the problem that crops up for people with JRPGs with hearing about them is that they're known for having slow build-ups. They're known for being long and sort of like it takes a couple of hours where you actually get a party and you get a story that's like engaging. Does 6 help avoid some of those pratfalls, at least, Seth?
Yeah, because they go places with it, and they always change up the environments in there. Like, you're not always going through the same thing. Like, you go through a fucking ghost trade. Like, you visit, like, a monster tower or something.
Sure.
I can't remember what it was, but
Yeah.
it was a monster tower and stuff. But there's a lot of different things that's happening in this game, and there's a lot of variety to it. So, I feel as though, like, it's still, like, that's the thing. It's like, it has a lot of stuff to do. And it gives you a lot of freedom to
Sure.
choose to do those stuff. And it kind of, like, allows you to, like, understand and look at different stories and what's happening in each character. And I feel as though, like, it's the best. Some may disagree it's not the most accessible or, like, the most easiest thing to get into. But I feel as though it's, like, the best representation of, like, what you could possibly, like, what makes this genre great and how you can understand, like, why people like.
Yeah, I mean, just the opening with the Magitech armor, I think, is really smart because it makes you strong at the start, right? Like, you don't say that strong forever, but it shows you, like, hey, look at generally, like, using abilities and all that stuff. I think it introduces in a smart way that gives you time to sort of figure it out and go take your own pace. But
it gives you, like, a start where you're basically invincible.
Yeah. So the basics of, like, menu navigation and all that other stuff, it gives you time to get accustomed to. So yeah, so that was interesting, Seth. I mean, like, Final Fantasy, I think, is like one of those, like, it is the JRPG genre in a lot of ways, right? Like, it's sort of when people think of
I
the
had
genre.
nothing to say, unfortunately, because I never played really got into Final Fantasy.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, yeah.
Can I throw out a quick suggestion? I don't really want to get super into it, but like I'd like to just throw one out there.
Yeah.
A good JRPG I would think for beginners is it's called Costume Quest.
Oh, that is an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's made by Double Fine Studios, so the people who made Psychonauts. And I think it's really, really accessible and easy to play JRPG. Or it's not even a JRPG, but it's an RPG and it's turn-based, and it uses a lot of the tropes from the genres. And it's very easy to play. If you're experienced, the game's kind of simple.
Or not the active time, but like you do the button press action commands. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's kind of the Mario and Luigi Paper Mario kind of thing. Yeah. So it's very accessible, very easy. It's got a cool, little cute art style, and I think that's a good one. So
that's one. I mean, really fast. Yeah. Whenever a game has like a season that is heavily set in, I love it. I just love that I can come to it every year and be like, it's Halloween, maybe I'll play Costume Quest. It's always fun.
Yeah, it's a good one. There's a sequel too.
There is. But anyways, so thanks, Saf, though, because, I mean, there's so many it's hard to choose. That's with all these, right? There's going to be, like, other ones that it'll excel in different things.
You could go for days.
Yeah. But Brandon, I guess in reverse order, Ills, you're up. You said strategy games, and this is one that I don't have the most experience with. So in some ways, you're gonna be explaining this to me. So I'm excited for this, actually.
Well, yeah. Okay, so the strategy genre largely consists of you, the player, controlling like a group of soldiers or whatever to achieve a certain goal. And it's typically presented in like a top-down fashion where you kind of have like a bird's eye view of the whole map, your units, and the enemies, right? And generally you can divide strategy games into two major subgenres. The RTS games, real-time strategy, and the turn-based tactics games, or more colloquially called turn-based. I'm going to talk about the RTS this time because, I mean, there's a lot. I don't want to get into all of it at once.
Yeah.
So for the most part, RTS revolves around you building and defending a base, like your main base, managing your resources, and creating and deploying your units, all in real time. There's no like slowdowns, no stopping, there's no pausing. Generally speaking, so your base or your units can be attacked at any time, no matter what you were planning on doing next. Losses in these games typically come from your main base being destroyed, and winning comes from destroying your enemy's base. These games are usually very involved and they require like a lot of focus to be successful in.
Mm-hmm.
But they also like they can be very satisfying and have a pretty grand storylines. Like the ability to build your base is like it's like to build it like any way you want to is one of the best features of the game. And when you get the ball rolling, you could really find yourself like having like this gloriously massive like and complex base like teeming with life and shit. It's fucking crazy. The most popular games in this genre are like the StarCraft series, the Age of Empires series, the Command and Conquer series.
Sure.
So, as a starting point for anybody who would like to try out RTS games, I would recommend Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos.
This game's getting a remaster.
Yeah, I actually wrote that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Honestly, I think this is like one of the least complex RTS games.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you the full RTS experience, so I don't want to give you the impression that it doesn't. But it doesn't focus too much on like it doesn't focus heavily on resource management. The size of your army generally doesn't get too enormous, and you have hero characters that are basically the leaders of your army that can level up and gain abilities that help you like turn the tide of battle. So they can do like chain lightning or raise the dead or stuff like that. Adding to that, it has a fantastic single player storyline. It's fucking super epic. It's basically one of the main reasons why World of Warcraft became a hit for like 11 years running.
Mm-hmm.
It has 4 different races to play, and you'll get a ton of variety throughout that whole, throughout the storyline. And yeah, it's getting re-released, like you said.
Sure. I think the hero unit thing is in particular, right? Because I think that like for me the weirdest thing when I go from like a normal quote unquote, but other genres to strategy games is you're used to controlling a singular character in most games, right? Or like a party at most. With
Right.
strategy games, like you're controlling sometimes dozens and dozens of units.
Yeah,
I think
like
that having the
faceless
heroes,
like a bunch of mobs, a faceless horde, basically.
yeah, just like here's a unit of soldiers, but you don't know any of their names. I think it's cool that, the hero units give you a grounding of like, oh, these are the sort of the focal points of the battlefield. These are the things where they can turn the tides. I think that it linked it over to other games that people may have played in an easier way.
Yeah, and in this game specifically, like your heroes can level up and they become like stronger, like progressively stronger. Not like in other RTS games, you might have hero units and they're stronger generally than your normal ones, but they don't gain, experience most of the time. So you kind of feel like a sense of progression. You can use them for like specifically hard enemies that come around. I mean, they can dominate like whole maps sometimes.
Yeah.
So I mean, that gives you like a little bit of leeway. You don't have to be super on point with all your enemy deployments. If you have your main leader out there, you could fuck shit up.
Mm-hmm. And I think that you mentioned on the 4 race thing there. I think that's cool because they all play differently and they all have different approaches. But I think that because they do a good job of introducing them slowly enough that like you can both see different types of ways to play each map, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't overwhelm you. It doesn't just say pick, here's 20 units from a list. They sequester them off a little bit more to make it less overwhelming.
Well, yeah, because each race has its own story arc, and then once that arc ends, you move on to the next race. So, I mean, it's not like you're choosing from, all 4. You have to go in the order of the story in the single story in the campaign. So,
and so there's a nice progression there because I know, like StarCraft, for example, like you said, is one of the premier ones, and like, when I first played StarCraft, I was like, okay. When I went to just do like a random match, I had to pick from the 3 things, and I was like, I don't know what like all these different things are supposed to do. Warcraft 3 does a really good job of that, from keeping you feeling that way.
Yeah, and they all feel like really unique.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned the story because I mean, it's funny how many things come from Warcraft 3, right? Just like you have. Obviously, World of Warcraft in the same universe, building off of the stuff that's set up in Warcraft 3. But then, like, all the MOBAs, right? Like, Dota was a mod for Warcraft 3, and then League spins off from Dota, and, like, those are 2 huge games. And then all of it comes back to the different aspects of this one game, I think. It's also cool because it's, like, a historical value, right?
Yeah, It's like a fulcrum.
Yeah.
Like all these other offshoots come from that one thing.
Yeah. And that's I had not thought of it, but that's a really good shout, because that is, I think, because like you said, also like, it's because it is older. It's not like assuming that you have 20 years of genre knowledge, so it works better like that. And the remaster makes it
right. Yeah.
It's still easy to play now, though.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty accessible. And the story, like I said already, like the story is really good, but the hero characters also have like a good personality to them. So I mean, you're not just like going along. You have like a story you care about. Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah. So that is now I want to play Warcraft 3 whenever it comes back out again.
You should.
So
and the expansion is dope too.
Of course. Man, expansions, what a thing. I feel like they're dying. But anyways, next up, Brandon, you're up.
Hello. How's it going?
You were picking it's a granddaddy genre. It's one of the first ever.
It is.
So how do you pick the 2D platformer? Right.
Yeah. So 2D platformer, I mean, everybody knows the genre, right? You think of video games. That's usually the first thing you think of. Mm-hmm. If you don't know video games and somebody mentions video games, what pops into your head, right? Mario, mm-hmm. right? 2D platformer. He's the grandfather of the grandfather, like
sure.
But Mario, obviously a good starting point for anybody. There's no denying it. Really, any 2D Mario game, pick it, is perfect. But that's not what I'm here to talk about, right? You don't want to hear about that. There's a lot of choices, right? Because you got Mario, you got Sonic, mm-hmm. and then after that, you branch off. There's a lot of different 2D platformers. There's ones that are extremely challenging, like you got Super Meat Boy, you got Celeste. Very good, very very good games, but they're not really beginner friendly at all. So they're fair. I'll give. They're not so challenging that they're not fair, but they can be intimidating mm-hmm. if you haven't played a video game before.
Yeah.
So I've played so many 2D platformers in my life. One of my probably two of my favorite games of all time 2D platformers: Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country 2. Mm-hmm. Talk about them all the time. I love those games.
Sure.
So I had to think for a minute. What's a really good one that it's beginner friendly, but I also kind of wanted to talk about one that not a lot of people talk about all the time, and that is Rayman Origins, and to an even more extent, Rayman Legends.
Oh,
so both of these games are incredible, and I think they are both really, really good entry points for somebody who's looking to get into platforming, because they're simple. And they start off fairly easy, and they both, through level design, do an incredible job of introducing new concepts mm-hmm. and making the game gradually more challenging for you as you go along.
Yeah.
And it's also a very fair game, too, in terms of challenge. Mm-hmm. Never really gets frustrating, but is just... If you've never seen either of these games in action... and you're interested after this explanation, please just look them up. Do yourself a favor. I mean, they're beautiful games.
Sure.
Hand drawn art. They look awesome in motion.
They're co-op.
Yeah, and the co-op's even better. I was going to mention that too. That's an even better thing if maybe you're afraid to go at it alone. Well, guess what? You can play co-op up to 4 people too, even, which is great. So these games are great. They introduce. It's simple platforming. You run, you jump, you punch. Mm-hmm. But they also have lots of different things going on that they introduce slowly later on. You have kind of like shooter levels where you're on a mosquito. Mm-hmm. You have some underwater levels, which all 2D classic 2D platformers is going to have some underwater levels, and you have those music levels too in Legends, which are really cool. Mm-hmm. It's just a blast to play, and I think like I said, it's really friendly, and it's slow. It doesn't get challenging until later on, and it eases you into it. It's really good if you looking to get into the genre.
I think that one of the weirdest things with platformers is how, because we've all played them for so long, there's like a reflexes you have to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like just the idea of holding the run button and then the jump button is like, it can be weird, right? And the idea of jumping and then like sort of you hang in the air whenever you punch, stuff like that. And I think that one of the nicest things the Rayman Legends and Origins does is the little hub area where you just run around and you like pick the area you're going to, because it gives you a safe space to just figure out controls and how Rayman locomotes and how he moves. Because, you know, Mario 1, you start it up, you're in it, there's a Goomba coming at you. I mean, it's not, now we look and we say that Goomba's a dumb loser, but that's the most deadly enemy in all of video games. I don't think anyone's died as much to any character than that one Goomba, because people don't know what jumping is, right? And so I think that Rayman Legends and Origins has the benefit of giving you this little space where you start out to figure out the controls and sort of how you interact with the world. And like, the co-op, like you said, I mean, it gives, this is a thing, lives. Explain how are the lives in Rayman Origins and Legends? Like, does that factor in how do checkpoints work? Because I think that confuses people.
Yeah, there's checkpoints, but there's no lives. You have infinite lives. You can die and die again as many times as you want. So basically, you go through the levels. I mean, you get checkpoints as you go through, but if you die, then you just keep going. And it's quick load, it's quick drop back in. It's easy. It's, you don't get punished really for dying that much. You just go back a little bit.
Yeah. Once you sort of get through an area, you don't have to go through that area again. Yeah. Right. Which is nice.
It's very fair. It's really fun. There's lots of collectibles too, which playing a platformer collectible, it's fun to collect things. Nintendo talks about it all the time. It feels good to pick stuff up.
Yeah.
And this game has a lot of that. You collect, I think they're lums.
Yes,
I think is what they're called. They're little lums, little fairy things. And you have to go around and save all these fairies, and they're trapped in cages. They give you there's secret areas that you can go into and find them. There's boss fights, but the boss fights are fair and they're really fun to play. The music too, real good. Real good music. So it's all around. It's a great package, and it's just fun to play. I can't recommend these games enough, and I think they're perfect for beginners of the genre.
I mean, I think it's interesting because it's a wonderful coincidence, because I had a girlfriend in high school who she never played a lot of video games before, but she wanted to play games with me. And I thought platformers were a good place to start. And we played Mario Wii, and we kept bumping into each other. I kept running ahead of her. Like, she did not have a good time. She was sick of it. But then we did play Rayman Origins like a couple months later, and she just really liked Glowbox. She thought Glowbox was very cute and funny. And so she wanted to play as him a lot. And because there's like you can smack each other and it's encouraged, she just had a great time smacking me more than anything else in the game. But throughout that thing, we beat the game. Like she had the full, the difference between Mario and it was that like she found Rayman to be way more approachable, which I think speaks more to your choice. I think that worked out. When you said that, I had forgot about it, but that's a really good shout out.
Yeah, it's a weird game. It's like, it's been 6 years since Legends came out, and it's just a weird space that like I hold these games in such high regards, but you just don't. Like, even I'm guilty of it. I don't talk about them all the time, but they're really, really, really fucking good. Yeah.
And that UbiArt engine is great. The engine they use is amazing how good it looks. But,
oh man, it looks awesome.
So that's a really, Rayman, I had not thought about it, but that's really cool. So then I guess it falls to me. I picked the stealth genre because it's small enough that I thought maybe there won't be as many games to pick. Spoilers, there were still a ton. So a quick shout out to I thought about Dishonored for a little bit. I thought about Mark of the Ninja for a little bit. But I think the thing that I like about stealth is how so much of video games is based around like power fantasies, right? You're strong, you walk into this room and you're tougher than these guys, right? Or you have the tools equipped to you to beat them. And the stealth genre is really based on the idea that you don't have the tools to beat them one-on-one or head-on, but they do give you tools to go around it, to feel like you're getting the one over on the game more than anything else in some ways, right? And so for that, I thought that among the best experiences I had with that I think is accessible in recent years is Hitman 2016, which I guess you could refer to as Hitman Season 1. It was a game that was published by Square Enix, but was got bought back by the people who made it for Hitman 2. But I think the thing that I like a lot about Hitman 1 is that it's pretty small. It's pretty compact. They have these levels that are complex, but they're not spacious. And I think that makes things nice because you play as Agent 47, right? And he is this like super hitman, whatever, but he doesn't like do anything particularly superhuman, right? Like he can climb, he's super strong, whatever. But like the main things that you do is you just try to get into areas and get alone with people. And I think that can be understood from a beginner's perspective, right? Like there's never moments where you're like zipping around and having to grappling hook or anything, right? You're not teleporting. It's just, hey, this guy's a bellhop. I need to get where a bellhop is. How can I get him distracted to get him over here to take on his costume to go where he can go, right? And the game does a good job of, through the environment, having people say like, hey, you can't come in here, right? And you say, okay, got it. I know in real life, when people say I can't come in here, I got to find some way around, right? And so as you go,
What is your real life like?
It's very stressful. It's fine. Like you try to go backstage at a concert, they say you can't come back in there. You got to get the little tag that says you can. And so, it's stuff like that. And so I think that because Agent 47 is this guy that's like, he is such a cipher too. It works well, but also I think it's like funny. Like Hitman makes you laugh in ways that you don't expect. Where like even when you die, you'll be like walk up to a thing, they'll be like, "What are you doing?" And then like there's just this moment of panic that comes with the stealth game. But because the levels are never too big, there's never huge checkpoints. You can beat any of them in 20 minutes basically on average. You never feel like you're set that far back. And the best part is that they literally have an opening level that is entirely staged as a fake operation to explain to you step by step the basic elements of what this game is, right? But it doesn't give everything away. So that natural discovery is still enjoyable. You can still find it. And so, I think that is, and also it still looks good. Like it's a modern game. The controls are pretty standardized if you've played other modern games. You won't have to relearn much of anything. So that's why I think it's cool. Yeah. But like I said, there's other ones. If you can't handle a 3D space, then Mark of the Ninja's good because it's all 2D and it gives you more spatial awareness as a result. But they're all there's plenty of cool stuff in the genre. But if there's not anything else, then I guess that wraps it up. Once again, there are clearly more genres than the 4 that we did here today. So we might come back to this other days where there's less news, or weeks where there's less news, and sort of build a separate list, not the one that we're about to invoke, of these babies firsts. But yeah, so that was fun. Thanks for doing that, boys. But as I mentioned, I've already sort of mentioned it. It's time to turn our eyes towards the list.
The list.
So, last week in the continual tradition of Saf screwing me over whenever I'm gone,
we went into the paste bin.
You can see that in the paste bin, Undertale got added at number 15, which I'm frankly not mad at. That's a very fair ranking for it. But that's a heck of a game, very high. This week, Brandon, I listened all the way through. I heard your little shout out at the end where you mentioned how I rank. I bring all the games that get ranked low, essentially.
Yeah.
You also unfairly maligned me.
Yeah, we ran the numbers, and some of that doesn't check out, but
fuck you.
That's fair.
Fuck you. You have just as many low.
But
fuck. I don't have as many. Fuck
I
you.
am in a bit of a sticky situation though, because now it's like if I pick a low one, I'm just playing into character. If I pick a high one, then clearly I'm just reacting to Brandon telling me that. But I was struck. I went to the Wikipedia page for the babies first. I looked at all the genres and I said, there is one game that stands, I think, at the head of its genre. One that had a breakthrough in a way that very few games have into the mainstream, and a game that I would dare say, has a on the very small list of games that could potentially have saved lives. That's right, everyone. I'm talking about the Stone Cold classic Wii Fit for the Nintendo Wii. That's a video game. You can buy it on a store shelf, so it counts.
What the hell?
Wii Fit.
Oh, man.
Who has played this game?
I played Wii
I
Fit.
have.
Brandon played Wii Fit. Your mom played Wii Fit. That's for certain. Because everybody's mom played Wii Fit.
You really don't
Call her
know my
up.
mom.
I don't know
Get
your
her up.
mom.
Get her up
Where
there.
would your mom rank Wii Fit? No, we're not going to invoke that.
She would
But-
rank it at 104.
Wow. Wii Fit is...
That's low.
I think that even if you didn't play it, you know what Wii Fit is, mostly, right? This is a thing that was, in a lot of ways, ahead of the curve of this whole industry of Fitbits and, you know, smart apps and couch to 5K. Wii Fit was out there saying, hey man, here's a bathroom scale, pay us up and we're gonna give you a disc where you can use this sucker. And it became a genuine phenomenon. It was huge, right? Like, it was, besides Wii Sports, which was its own little breakthrough in the Wii Fit became the second thing that helped propel that console to be as successful as it was. But I think in the same way that there's a ton of Wii Sports imitators, right? Where it's like, swing your tennis racket or whatever, but none of them are quite as good as Wii Sports.
So many. There's
so many. Connect Sports is out there, right? Rare made that game. It was just troubling. But, you know, in the same way that, like, none of them quite hit that tone that Wii Sports hit. I don't think there's a lot of fitness apps. My Fitness Boxing came out earlier this year. None of them strike that tone in Wii Fit. Is it because that trainer? I mean, she made it into Smash. I don't know.
I just want to be straight with you real quick though.
Yep.
Will. I played Wii Fit U.
They're basically the same game.
I know they're basically the same, but I never played the original Wii Fit. I played Wii Fit U.
Okay. Well, either way. So I think it's a weird game, but there is games, right? There are mini games, right? There's parts where you lean on the board and you hit soccer balls, you go and you bounce on a trampoline. There's plenty of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. There's a hula hoop one. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's honestly kind of fun.
Yeah, those are genuinely fun, and they quietly get you to burn calories when you're not doing the yoga things and push-ups and stuff, right? But I think that
don't burn calories.
Well,
You burn. Hey, I felt it in my abs.
It's true. I mean, I think that I think that this game is weird because there's been tons of imitators, but like, it broke through in such a huge way. And I think that for what it set out to do, it was very successful, right? Like, I mean, it made everyone feel bad about their weight when they saw their meat get fat. But besides that, you know, I think that motivated people to try to, like, you know, a bunch of nursing homes bought Wiis for Wii Fit, right? My friend's mom comes in to pick him up. She sees the balance board. She asks what it is. I say, this is Wii Fit, and I show her what it is. Go to his house a week later. She bought a Wii to try to lose weight, right? This game sold a bunch of people, and like a bunch of people used it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that in that way, it's worth celebrating, even though it's not like a lot of other games, right? But let's not say that it's the greatest game ever made either, right? So I think that we're in a rough situation right now, because where do you rank a game like this?
Very, very
under
weird
Nintendo
to think
Land.
about.
I don't know. I was gonna put it like around Zach and Wiki. Is where my brain was at. Because I think that Nintendo Land, I mean, part of the appeal of Nintendo Land is that it was trying to be this thing that like sells you on the concept of the Wii U gamepad, and it kind of didn't, right? Wii Fit sold the concept of the balance board. It sold what it was, right? And I think it was effective. And so I think that, you know, I'm not going to put above like Cave Story or Until Dawn, which I think is another thing, right? I think Until Dawn goes to like a very specific weird niche thing, right? It does not play in a traditional game way. But what it sets out to do, it does very effectively. I think that that Wii Fit isn't a different thing than Until Dawn, but I think it should be in the mid 70s probably.
Underneath Zack and Wiki.
Yes, I would say underneath Zack and Wiki, but I would say maybe above New Super Mario Brothers 2, right?
Damn.
Because I think that we look at New Super Mario Brothers 2 and we view it almost as like the baseline for neutral, right? For wholly effective, but not exemplary.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, Wii Fit, because as like a video game, it barely is.
Sure.
But it does what it is set out to do very, very well.
Yeah.
Damn. Wait, if that's the bar, if New Super Mario 2 is the bar for that effective game. So
Yeah.
Why the fuck is Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 2 below it?
That it's in a weird spot. It should
The
be
list
higher.
isn't perfect. The list is not perfect.
But we deal with the list as it is.
Damn.
That's another. See, we're already looking. We're like 20 weeks out. We're already looking at potential re-rank targets. But
I don't know if I would put Wii Fit above Legacy of Goku 2.
But I would put it above a lot of the stuff above Legacy of Goku 2. I would put it above Shadow of Memories or Went Back 2 or even Nier. And I like Nier a lot. Or Mortal Kombat 1. Right? Like Mortal Kombat 1 is a semi-effective fighting game. I think Wii Fit is a good fitness game.
Well,
Yeah, it's got pretty good mini games, and I like the mini games are fun, man, and they do exactly what they're made out to do. Like there was times where I'd play Wii Fit and just turn it on for my daily. Hey, tell me how I'm doing. So I had Wii Fit U, and the game came with a pedometer as well. That you could scan in, and it would be like, oh, you walked this far, like this week, and tell you all this cool stuff. I don't know. There was days where I just turn it on for that, and just check in, and that's it. And there was some days where I'd turn it on and be like, let's do some yoga and do some other shit while I'm standing here, looking like an asshole. Yeah.
I do think that it giving active feedback was a big deal, right? The idea of
it felt good. Honestly, like when I first started playing, I lost like some weight playing it. Like I was officially obese.
Sure.
I never felt obese in my life, but I was officially obese when I started playing that game.
They're brutal.
When I was done, I was only overweight.
Hey, we take that. That's good.
Hey.
Wait.
I wasn't obese anymore.
Wait.
I felt good about it.
Do they still use BMI as a measure?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Oh, now Seth's gonna go on a rant about the BMI being an inaccurate measurement. I'm ready for it. It has it's fraught, but it gives you just straight up your weight too. But I think also because I think that too, like when you're like doing yoga, like when they say like, hey, you're like leaning too much on your right foot and your left foot. That was the thing that freaked me out the most. Was I was like, oh, you're putting your entire weight on your left leg. I was like, oh god, and I worked on it. And I was doing sports at the time, and I was like better because I was not leaning on my left leg as much. And I was like, "This is crazy.
They help you track your balance. Too.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing. Is because the balance board itself was Reggie joked that like we sold 80 million bathroom scales, but like there was other stuff going on with that baby. Fun fact: the little corners, same springs that they used on the N64 analog sticks. They had a bunch of those left over, and they repurposed them for the balance board.
Really?
Yeah, that was the thing I learned reading a thing one the other day. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Like, I could see it below Mario 2, New Super Mario Bros. 2, but I would not put it below Mortal Kombat, I think.
What about Pokemon?
I think I'd put it above Pokemon.
Yeah.
TCG too.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that this game is noteworthy for two things. For the Wii Fit trainer getting in Smash, which I love. Talk shit. Get fit. And
I love her too.
She's wonderful.
And my body is ready.
Yeah, my body is ready. Oh man, we got to bump like 10 spots because of that. No, but so I mean, are we cool with 77 then?
I'm cool with that. That seems pretty fair for this game.
I want justice for Legacy of Goku too, but for now, yeah. Fine.
For now.
You gotta wait a while for that, brother.
Maybe. But okay, so there we
My heart will
go.
burn.
And then it's right there. So there it goes. Number 77, Wii Fit. Did not help my average much, but it's fine. That is
Really
the list
didn't.
for this week. Sap, are you still with us?
I'm alive.
Oh, good. Sap's the man who he never felt the need to get Wii Fit because he was already buff. But why don't you get the final phrase this week? And while you think on that, I will mention some plugs for where else you can find us, such as twitch.tv/JumpUpSupercast, where we will stream sporadically, but the way you will know we are live is by following us on said platform, or by following us on twitter.com/JumpUpSupercast, where we will post whenever episodes go live every Monday, and every other Monday, every other Thursday, when the Game Club goes live. Upcoming this week will be Metroid Other M. This is a big deal, right? This is contentious.
You can't see me. I'm rolling my eyes. You can't see
this
it.
Is contentious. Noah, though he's not on this podcast, his ghost looms large as he makes us re-rank a game already on the list through the game club. So see how that goes down.
It's a first.
It's a first. This is the arms race is kicking off. We'll see where it goes from here.
It's man, 2 days from now we record this episode. Can't wait.
God, that could be a long one. Please be excited. But
God, I hope
3-hour episode.
But you'll know how long we went by following us on your podcast services of choice. Basically everything but Spotify, because Spotify is weird. And where you can follow us there and grade us 5 stars. And then also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. So there you go. That is the long and short of it. You can find all of this on all those places at Jump Up Supercast. So with all that having been said, thank you all for listening. And now, Saf, your final phrase.
My final phrase is go Wii Fit.
Thanks.
What the fuck?
my God.
My God.